I was a good kid, but I was very naughty. Out all the time. So we grew up on an estate, quite a tight-knit council estate in London, a place called Hayes. My mum and dad were quite young when they had me and my brother and sister. So, yeah, young parents, they used to like sell drugs. You'd have people at our house all the time. So there's always something going on. My mum and dad used to, like, my mum sold drugs and they used to take whiz amphetamine. So I always remember that, and I remember a lot of arguments. My dad was, my dad was horrible to my mum. There's a lot of domestic violence. So we'd be out on the streets playing with our friends all the time. There'd be like a gang of us. Finding things to do, probably terrorising the neighbours, getting chases, knocking on people's doors, throwing things at them. Yeah, just really, I'd say feral kids we were. But we all like looked out for each other and sort of grew up together. I didn't like being at home, so I'd be out all the time. I thought I was quite good at school for the first couple of years, in junior school, but we'd always be up to something, stealing from the teachers, nicking nicking money from people's packed lunch boxes, and just being naughty little kids, I suppose. I had a couple of best friends who I was really close to. I think at an early age we'd just be naughty, and as we sort of got a little bit older, I suppose about 10, 11, my brother, he would have been, I don't know, around 12, 13. He'd, he'd be hanging around with other people, like another group of kids, and they'd be smoking weed, doing trips and staying out all night. So from like, I don't know, 11, 12, that's what we'd do at the weekend. It's like stay out all night, take trips, smoke weed. Mainly because I didn't want to go home at night because of arguments and stuff in the house. I went to school most days, as into senior school. We carried on, me and my friends would take drugs, well, obviously smoke weed, and I'd end up buying that off my mum. She was quite, I was going to say, quite open to us using drugs, but she was all right because it was weed, and, or we'd call it puff. It was like the weed puff, or whatever you call it. So I'd smoke weed, and then that went on to taking pills at the weekend. And I think I left school when I was about 15. I didn't really do well at school. I was just naughty. I didn't care what teachers said. And there was no, like, sort of, I didn't have to go to school. My mum wouldn't make us get up. So we had no, like, boundaries or anything like that. We weren't, if you do this at school, you could get a job doing this. There was no, like, direction from my mum and dad. So it's just doing what we wanted from quite a young age. I left school at 15. I got expelled. And then I got a job at Heathrow Airport when I was about 16. And around that time, one of my friends had tried heroin. And we'd got some one day from a place. We went up to Camden and I think we brought an eighth of heroin. And I didn't touch it, I didn't use it, because I thought I ain't going near that. Because I've seen my auntie, one of my aunties was a heroin addict, and she'd hang around with all these drunk people and these people with no teeth, and they looked like tramps, and it was just one thing that I thought, I ain't ever touching that. But I think a week later I tried it, and I know it sounds crazy, but I went on the sunbed, and I used to use sunbeds, and I remember just laying there for 20 minutes just dead still, and I thought, this is all right, this. And then I'd used it again a couple of weeks later, and then my friend bought some during the week. And I think it was like a month or so later, I sort of started waking up, not feeling right. And then I remember calling her from work on my lunch break. Can you get any gear? And she's like, yeah, I'll go and get some. She'd met me back at the airport. And as soon as I had it, I felt better again. And then we couldn't work out why we were feeling the way we were. So we just ended up doing more and more. But we were still hanging about with our other friends and drinking at the pub and stuff like that. But we were doing heroin sneakily. And then, yeah, a couple of months later, people found out and sort of didn't talk to us and stuff like that. But we didn't care, because we were all right, because we were doing that, and it made us feel so much better. I think we got stuck when we didn't have any money, or I weren't paid or anything like that. And I remember my friend had robbed her mum's jewellery. I ended up losing my job. Yeah, that's when we realised I had a problem. It was when I lost my job and I had no money at all, but I needed heroin. So we'd go out, we'd shoplift, rob money off my mum, sell whatever stuff we had. I remember I had loads of perfume, loads of sunglasses and stuff that I'd nicked from the airport, and just ended up selling all my stuff, all my clothes, all my perfumes. That's when I realised I had a problem. And then my mum found out a little while later, and I remember having to go to the same clinic as my auntie used to get methadone, and I was only 17, 18. Yeah, and then I think I was on a methadone script for a few weeks, and then I ended up my cousin took me abroad to come off it, and that was like the worst time of my life. I'd never felt so ill. I was awake for about 7 days, coming off heroin cold turkey. Yeah, that's when I realised I had a big problem. So I spent some time abroad. I had my daughter. I come back to England after a couple of years. She was taken by her dad back to Newcastle. Fast forward that, I had 2 more boys who were both taken into care. So after that, I become chaotic. So a typical day would be, I'd wake up, drink a couple of cans of strong cider. I'd get my methadone. And then I'd be, how can I get money? What I used to do I'd ask my mum. Not always would she give me money, but most of the time I'd hang around her until I sort of worn her down, and she'd give me £10 just to get rid of me. Otherwise it'd be waiting for my benefits or just asking people for money, I think. I know that's what I used to do. I feel embarrassed about it, saying it, but I'd ask people for bus fares. I didn't, I pretend I was stuck somewhere, so I'd ask people for £2 bus fare home and stuff like that. And then I'd end up raising 20, 30 quid so I could get one of each, some heroin and crack, and not have enough money for a few beers. And then I'd do that. See people that I knew, end up getting gear off them. Or, yeah, any which way. Find people that were shoplifters and go shoplifting with them. Sell bottles of drink and they makeup to one of the off licenses. Find someone that was vulnerable and had money, and you'd take their benefits off them. Any which way I could get money, I would get money. I feel like I was pretty ruthless, actually. I'd always, I used to go by, if there was a will, there was a way. And I'd always come up with something. Yeah, so it's pretty sad. Yeah, sad and lonely. There'd be times when people would be about, and if I didn't have any money and I couldn't make any money, I'd sort of argue with people and take the money. Yeah, sometimes, I don't know, I'd always, find a way of getting money. I'd go round to my sister, ask to borrow money, and if she left the room or left her bag there, I'd nick her money. Yeah. It was just about surviving and getting my next £20. I had my youngest son, Tyler. I had him and I'd already lost Louis. Well, not lost Louis. So I had a little boy in 2009, 10. I forget the dates, actually. But I had a little boy, Louis, when I was living in Manchester. And he was taken by social services. And then I fell pregnant straight after. So I come back to London. I was on a methadone script and everything was going okay. I was living at my mum's. I had Tyler, and for a while I was doing okay. I was just taking my methadone and I had Tyler and I was doing the mum thing. But then I was drinking alongside that after I had him. And then at times I'd get some gear and it was all okay. I got my own place. And then I'd have people round and I didn't know like their background and the social services and that were involved. My brother had come round and he'd use, and then I ended up using again. And a lot of like stuff happened. There were people getting arrested at the house and people coming round drinking and whatnot anyway. So it was a little bit chaos, and the social services got involved and they ended up taking him into care. So I had to go through the court process of trying to get custody back. And I think I started using again and drink. Well, I know I did. I started using and drinking again. So I had to go through all that. And I think things just got a lot worse. I sort of, after Dad agreed to have Tyler adopted, I just started smoking crack, heroin. And yeah, I just don't remember a whole year and a half. Then I ended up, something happened with my sister. We were arguing. A lot of things kicked off. I got arrested for smashing her house up. And then I ended up moving in with a guy that was actually begging in the local town. Got into that relationship. I actually moved into his house and we'd fight a lot. He'd beat me up, I'd beat him up. But I remember my mum saying to me, you're going to end up fucking dying. I'd have black eyes all the time and I'd be out on, there's a place along the Uxbridge Road, like we'd be there drinking all the time, smoking a lot of crack, and I was just out of control, literally fighting men all the time, fighting with him. And I was always black and blue and beaten up. And I remember going to my drug worker and saying, I've had enough. And she was like, well, we still got the funding for your rehab from before. I was like, oh, I'll go there then. I'll do that. She said, well, you're going to have to work at it, but at the end of it, you're going to have, at this place, you'll have a job and a place to live. I thought, fuck it, I'm absolutely sold. And I thought, yeah, I want that. So we went through all that. That happened at, I think, Christmas 2016. And then March 2017, I was accepted to come to Oxford and to the Lee. Yeah, and I'd done that. And I went there. I thought it was, I'm going to go there and I'm going to stop using. And I thought it was just the drugs that was a problem. But then a lot of people told me, no, it's not that. It's actually me that I was a problem. It was my attitude and my behaviours that were the problem. I think it was being able to talk openly about my past. And unpack all that, all the sadness and all the shit stuff that I'd been through. I was able to talk about it and sort of over time learn to let it go. Um, yeah, and I think it was about building relationships with the people around me where I could be honest and I could sort of be myself. And I sort of found who I really was. I sort of got an understanding of that. I think over time you just learn to realise that you are a good person and you don't need all that other stuff to sort of get to where you need to be, if that makes sense. Yeah, you learn to like yourself. I think the challenges in the whilst in rehab were relationships, relationships with men. That was an obstacle because I sort of ran into one, which didn't turn out too good. So that was a bit of an obstacle. Taking on board advice from other people because I always, and I still do think I know best. So that was quite challenging. I think when I finished and I come out, I loved being normal, being drug free, and just the simple things in life, like getting up and going to work. I really enjoyed it. But if I do something wrong, it was having to sit with them feelings. I sort of struggled with that because I'd make mistakes and I sort of compare myself to other people. And also struggled with sort of having honest conversations with people. So I've sort of struggled with that, and but I think that comes with time and building relationships. As I progressed, I got a job. I enjoyed the work. I enjoyed doing stuff. I enjoyed going to the gym and just waking up, going running and stuff like that. And then when I wanted to look for other work, I think I sort of still struggled with my confidence. And because I'd been a drug addict for many years, sort of wanting to get a job and people having to talk about my past with people that I didn't know, I sort of struggled with that I'd be, I just sometimes still don't think I'm good enough. And I sort of, that's probably one of my main struggles is confidence. After you stop taking drugs and over so many years, it's still there in your head. I think the biggest thing I've learned is that I'm worth something. I've learned that I'm strong enough to get through things. And I actually really quite like myself. I love myself. But it's sort of allowed me to see that I am a good person. I'm kind. It's allowed me to sort of build relationships and have them relationships that I've probably craved all my life. Honest, healthy relationships. it's allowed me to rebuild relationships with my daughter after 6 or 17 years of not seeing her. It's allowed me to sort of grow up and lead or have a nice peaceful life, just doing the normal everyday things. But I think the most important thing is being able to be a mum to my daughter, just like have a normal relationship, being able to buy her birthday presents and go on holidays with her, just all the nice stuff that I missed out on. And I'm able to be there for her. I was able to be there for my family when my mum died a couple of months ago. I was able to be the strong one and keep them together. And yeah, just doing the normal things that are expected of me. Stability. Yeah, she needed stability. She needed stability. She needed, well, probably guidance. She probably needed people around her that probably loved her. Yeah. And she needed taken away from that environment to find that. I think looking back, I would have told myself to get my shit together. But I think one thing I always knew was that life weren't for me. I remember actually telling my mum that I was always going to sort myself out and do something different. But I just didn't know how to do it or how to even start thinking about it. But I just knew that wasn't me. That person weren't me. Now, at the moment, I am working for a women's project with Homeless Oxfordshire. So what I do, I work, so the title's the Complex Needs Team. So I work with women that are in addiction, that have mental health illnesses and homeless. So we've got like a 5-bedroom house, and I just manage that day to day. So it's working with the girls, building a relationship, helping them get to appointments, trying to introduce, like we do, cooking together, gardening. Yeah, and it, because of what I've been through, I sort of encourage them to go to, obviously I think the answer is everyone needs to go off to rehab and stop taking drugs. And yeah, it's just, what I do is that mainly on a daily basis and try and get them into accommodation. But I sort of come from an angle where I just want them to have what I've had. I've always wanted to work with women that were similar to me. And I remember years ago I'd say to people that's what I wanted to do. And obviously I think I've got my dream job and I absolutely love what I do. Yeah, sort of letting them see me or working with me and me being able to share my story, I think gives them girls hope for their futures. In the future, I would love to still be doing what I'm doing. Obviously, everyone wants a pay rise, so I would love that. But if I can keep helping these girls and seeing them change through, just seeing them change, that's massive for me. In the future, I just want to carry on doing what I'm doing and living a peaceful life, I suppose, going on holiday with my little girl, being able to, yeah, keep on making memories with her and, yeah, to being happy and being able to cope with the challenges life throws at me and not going back to using. That's what I want for the future.